Hi everybody. My goodness. So today we're going to start a new book. It's called McBroom's Wonderful 1-Acre Farm, and I love this book. It is so funny, but you have to pay close attention because Mr. McBroom says a lot of things that aren't quite true. It's called non-literal language, meaning that he says a lot of things, but he doesn't really mean what he's saying. He means another thing, and I'll stop every time and try to help you out with that, but you have to listen close, but it's really funny. So this is McBroom and his wife and all his kids. He has all those kids, and you're going to meet them, okay? Let's get started. McBroom's Wonderful 1-Acre Farm. And there's a picture. It's 3 chapters, 3 stories in one book. McBroom tells the truth. There's been so much tomfoolery nonsense told about McBroom's 1-Acre Farm that I just better set the matter straight. I'm McBroom, Josh McBroom, and I'll explain about the watermelons in a minute. So he says that a lot, and he will explain about the watermelons just later. I aim to put down the facts, one after the other, the way things happened. Exactly. It began, you might say, the day we left the farm in Connecticut. We piled our youngsters and everything we owned in our old air-cooled Franklin automobile. Automobile is like an old word for car. And we headed west. To count noses, in addition to my own, there was my dear wife, Melissa, and our 11 red-headed, freckled-faced youngsters. Their names were Will, Jill, Hester, Chester, Peter, Polly, Tim, Tom, Larry, Mary, and a little Cloretta. So I want you to notice something. When he says the names, he says them all bunched together. So he says all the names in one. It's kind of funny. It was summertime, and the trees along the way were full of bird songs. We had gotten as far as Iowa when my dear wife Melissa made a startling discovery. We had 12 children, one too many. She had just counted them again. I slammed on the brakes and raised a cloud of dust. Will, Jill, Chester, Hester, Peter, Polly, Tim, Tom, Mary, Larry, and little Cloretta, line up! So the youngsters tumbled out of the car, and I counted noses, and there were 12. I counted again, 12. It was a baffler, as all the faces were familiar. Once more I made the count, but this time I caught Larry slipping around behind. He was having his nose counted twice. And the mystery was solved. That scamp, so scamp means like somebody sneaky. Didn't we laugh, though, and stretch our legs in the bargain? Just then a thin, long-legged man came ambling down the road. He was so scrawny, I do believe that he could have hidden behind a flagpole, ears and all. Okay, so what's going on is Mr. McBroom and his whole family are moving from Connecticut to out west somewhere. They haven't decided where they're going to stop. But while the mom, Melissa, was counting the kids in the car, she noticed that there was one more kid with them. But it was really his son Larry playing a trick because he kept being counted twice. So when they lined up, he would run around and get counted again. But it made him stop. And as they're stopping, they're about to meet a man who is going to change things up a bit for him. But he says he's so scrawny that they believe that he could hide behind a flagpole. I don't think that is quite true, but you can see him in your head. You can think of a really, really thin person. He wore a tall, stiff collar, a diamond stick pin on his tie, and a black hat. "Lost neighbor?" he asked, spitting out the pips of a green apple he was eating. "Not a bit," I said. "We're heading west, sir." We gave up our farm. It was half rocks and the other half tree stumps. Folks tell us there's land out west and the sun shines in the winter. The stranger pursed his lips. Well, you can't beat Iowa for farmland, he said. Maybe so, I nodded, but I'm short of funds, meaning he doesn't have a lot of money. And unless they're giving away farms in Iowa, I'm going to keep going. The man scratched his chin. Well, see here, I got more land than I can plow. Remember oxen? We talked about how oxen plow the dirt. So he is plowing the dirt to grow a garden. You look like nice folks, and I'd like to have you for neighbors. I'll let you have 80 acres, cheap. Not a stone or a tree stump anywhere on the place. Make me an offer. Well, thank you kindly, sir, I smiled and said. I'm afraid you'd laugh at me if I offered you anything in my leather purse. How much? He said. Well, $10 exactly. Sold, he said. Well, I almost choked with surprise. I thought he must be joking, but quick as a flea, he was scratching out a deed on the back of an old envelope. Hector Jones is my name, he said. You can call me Heck. Everyone else does. Well, there was ever a more kindly and generous man, I don't know. He signed the deed with a flourish, and I gladly opened the clasp of my purse. 3 milky white moths flew out. Now that's important. I want you to remember that. They had been gnawing on the $10 bill all the way from Connecticut, but enough remained to buy the farm, and not a stone or a tree stump on it. Mr. Heck Jones jumped on the running board and guided us a mile up the road. My youngsters tried to amuse him along the way. Will wiggled his ears and Jill crossed her eyes, and Chester twitched his nose like a rabbit. But I reckon Mr. Jones wasn't used to youngsters. Hester flapped her arms like a bird, and Peter whistled through his front teeth, which were missing. And Tom tried to stand on his head in the back of the car. Mr. Heck Jones just ignored them all. Finally, he raised his long arm and pointed. There, your property, neighbor, he said. Didn't we tumble out of the car in a hurry? We gazed with delight at our new farm. It was broad and sunny with an oak tree on a gentle hill. There was one defect, to be sure, a boggy, remember that word, bog? Means muddy, boggy-looking pond spread across an acre beside the road. You could lose a cow in a place like that, but we had gotten a bargain, so no doubt about it. Mama, I said to my dear Melissa, see that fine old oak tree? That's where we'll build our farmhouse. No, you won't, said Mr. Heck Jones. That oak ain't on your property. But, sir, all that's yours is what you see under water, not a rock or a tree stump in it, like I said. So Mr. Heck Jones has tricked Mr. McBroom. He sold them 80 acres, but it's all underwater. Told the truth. He said that there wasn't a stump or a rock on it. But I wonder how he got 80 acres. Let's see what he says. But, sir, I thought he must have been having one of his little jokes, except that he wasn't a smile to be found on his face. You clearly stated that the farm was 80 acres, he said. That's right. That marshy pond hardly covers an acre. That's wrong, he said. There are a full 80 acres, one piled on the other, like griddle cakes, pancakes. I didn't say your farm was all on the surface. It's 80 acres deep. So he's meaning 80 acres all the way down. McBroom, read the deed. I read the deed, and it was true. Hee-haw, hee-haw, he snorted. I got the best of you, McBroom. Good day, neighbor. And he scurried away, laughing up his sleeve all the way home. I soon learned that Mr. Heck Jones was always laughing up his sleeve. Folks told me that when he'd hang up his coat and go to bed, all the stored-up laughter would pour out of his sleep and keep him awake at night. Now, that's not literal either. He's just laughing up your sleeves means that you're just laughing to yourself. But they're just making it where it says that he just does this kind of stuff all the time. He's always finding what he does is funny. Nobody else is. I'll tell you about the watermelons in a minute. Well, there we stood, gazing at our 1-acre farm. That wasn't good for anything but jumping into in a hot day. The hottest one on record, as it turned out. This day, 3 minutes before noon, when the cornfields all over Iowa exploded into popcorn. That's history. You must have read about it. There are pictures to prove it. I don't think that really happened. I turned to my children. Will, Jill, Hester, Chester, Peter, Polly, Tim, Tom, Larry, Mary, and little Cloretta, I said, there's always a bright side to things. That pond we bought is a mite muddy, but it is wet. Let's jump in and cool off. That idea was met with favor, and we were soon in our swimming trunks. And I gave the signal, and we all took a running jump, and at that moment such a dry spell struck the land in an acre of dry earth. The pond had evaporated. It was very surprising. So it got so hot all of a sudden that the pond just evaporated. The sun dried up all the water. My boys had jumped in head first, and there was nothing to be seen of them but their legs kicking in the air, so they got stuck in the mud. I had plucked them out of the earth like carrots. Some of my girls were still holding their nose, and of course they were sorely disappointed to have the swimming hole pulled out from under them. There they are. We'll have to see what happens the rest next time. I hope you're enjoying it. Bye-bye.